UFC Fight Night, Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann. Welcome to another UFC prediction and analysis video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris as usual. Fight by fight breakdown and analysis from that betting perspective specifically. We want to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights to avoid, which underdog has a shot at winning, and some parlay action towards the end of the video as well. If this is your first time watching one of our videos, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're a regular watcher and have not hit that subscribe button yet, please do so. We would definitely appreciate that. Otherwise, hit the thumbs up on this video. And most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. For this UFC Fight Night event, we have 13 fights overall. 7 of them are on the prelims, 6 of them are on the main card. So let's get started right away with fight number 1 of our prelims. We're looking at Jose Johnson taking on Garrett Armfield. For Jose Johnson, he's a UFC newcomer. He's from the Dana White Contender Series. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. Good striking, good power, pretty dynamic with his striking as well. Good kicks from what I'm seeing, good distance control as well. The ground IQ is also there, though his takedown defense isn't that good. If he is taken down, pretty good at scrambling. If he's on top, pretty good at positional improvements. Showed good work overall in that Dana White Contender Series fight, but stylistically likes to keep it on the feet, a little bit vulnerable to that takedown, but definitely willing to work if he is taken down. Garrett Armfield, on the other hand, lost to David Onama in his July debut. That was a short notice fight for him. That was also up a weight class, so I don't want to put too much stock into that. His striking looks good. It's controlled, good IQ with the combinations. He's going to stay in front of you, box in the pocket, primarily hands. The power is there as well. 5 out of his 8 wins are via KO, TKO. The clinch is there as well. He can also scramble around in ground exchanges. And he made his debut a very competitive fight, considering it was a short notice up a weight class for him. So got to respect that. I think I can rely on Garrett Armfield here to be the more consistent point scorer. I think his forward pressure, his cleaner boxing, those are 2 key tools to sway what I anticipate to be close rounds in his favor. Johnson, of course, going to have a huge 6-inch height advantage, huge 4-inch reach advantage, or I guess just an inch according to the ESPN numbers. But I think that reach is going to be a little bit longer. Again, in addition to him being faster, the more dynamic striker, I can definitely see Jose Johnson's style giving Armfield problems. I am anticipating a lot of a stalemate as far as the ground game goes on both sides. I think they both have it in them, but they both prefer to strike. That said, I think Armfield can be the more effective offensive ground person in this fight, being the fighter that's more likely to resort to the takedown. Again, I mentioned Jose Johnson not having the best takedown defense. I think Armfield is going to be the one that lands them. Even if it leads to 50-50 scrambling exchanges, Armfield would be the one that collects the takedowns in his name in terms of looking at the stats. And I actually think that's going to be the difference. Again, Jose Johnson, to me, not really the best at using his length. He allows guys to get in, he allows guys to land takedowns, and I think Garrett Armfield is going to capitalize on that. So my pick is going to be Garrett Armfield to get us started.
Yeah, this is a really tough fight to start the card. Garrett Armfield, really well-rounded. He has the wrestling chops. He's gonna have the wrestling advantage in this fight. And in his fights, he has sneaky good boxing. He can box. He can counter, and he's usually on the front foot. So he can definitely hold his own in the boxing department. Plus, he does have some power. Jose Johnson, though, when you look at him, you gotta like that this guy has like 48 fights with his amateurs and professionals. He has 30 something fights as an amateur, 22 fights or as a professional. So this guy has a lot of fights already. So this guy's a lot of experience, and I think that's going to matter in this fight. I think Jose Johnson's fight on the Contender Series against Jack Cartwright. You have to understand who Jack Cartwright is. He was running through guys on Cage Warriors. I remember watching a Cage Warrior. They had a tournament, like a same day tournament. I think they fought 2 or 3 people. This guy was just knocking everybody out in the first round. That Cartwright guy. Jack Cartwright. And Jose got a really, really tough win in that, where he had to deal with someone that can grapple really good, probably a better wrestler. Jose was able to defend off his back, get back to his feet, and in the striking, Jose was outlanding this guy, Cartwright. And I think he can do the same here against Armfield. I think he's the better striker. That 6-inch reach is going to be a big thing. If Armfield does get some grappling going, I think he's going to get it going in that first round. As the fight goes on, I think takedowns are going to be harder. And if he does get him down, I do trust in Jose to get back to his feet. Utilize those front kicks, the reach. I see Jose winning the fight here. So I'm going to go with the dog here, Jose Johnson.
All right, fight number 2. Let's take a look at Hailey Cowan versus Ailin Perez. Hailey Cowan is the UFC newcomer here. She's coming from Dana White Contender Series, Invicta and LFA before that. She's on a 2-fight winning streak. She's a southpaw who's pretty light on her feet with good in and out movement, good diversity in her striking. She does have a few weapons, good combinations as well, good strength, good clinch. She likes to wear on her opponents. Kind of has that infamous Holly Holm clinch dirty box style that I speak of often. That said, her takedown defense is not amazing. Both of her losses are via submission. She's not clueless on the ground by any means. Her top game is solid to that point, but the ground game just isn't the best. Ailin Perez, on the other hand, this is her second fight in the UFC after she lost her September debut to Stephanie Egger. Solid striker, bit of an aggressive style, a lot of movement, a lot of fakes, a lot of feints, a lot of level changes, things like that. Look for her to control center, be the fighter coming forward. And to the point of fakes and level changes, I believe her strength is in her ground game. I like her takedowns. I think she sets them up well with the timing on her feet. I like her ground control. She makes good positional improvements as well. Good grappling, good top control. Though it is worth noting that she lost via submission in her last fight, albeit Stephanie Egger, who's been landing a few solid submissions lately. She's shown me good cardio in her fights as well, which I think is really important. The ability to push a high pace throughout the entire fight could definitely wear on Hailey Cowan here. I'm not all the way sold on Hailey Cowan. For striking to be her strongest weapon, I don't think it's that great. I think, again, the vulnerable takedown defense is very relevant for this fight. Perez, in my opinion, should be able to find those takedowns, should be able to have that top control. Her cardio should be able to allow her to do that for all 3 rounds. These aren't high-level fighters, and that's really, going to stop me from being confident in either fighter here, even if you disagree with everything that I'm saying. These just aren't high-level fighters, so I don't think you can trust either one of them. But analytically, I'm liking the underdog. I'm liking Ailin Perez's striking a little bit more pressure, a bit more pace. And I like Ailin Perez's ability to rely on takedowns. And in my opinion, just have the more complete ground game. So I like the underdog here. I'm not all the way sold on Hailey Cowan. Ailin Perez is going to be my pick.
Yeah, Hailey Cowan, right? She's a gymnast first, so she's going to be strong, physically strong, and that's her best attribute is her strength against these other female fighters that she's fighting against. She's just really strong. But when you look at the upper body, she might have the advantage there. But I think Perez has the stronger hips and the stronger legs just by looking at their picture on or just watching their fight. So you'll notice that Perez has really, really strong looking legs that could help her, that she can generate some power from. So that's going to help her there. But this fight, yeah, it's bottom of the barrel. It is low level. Both of them have fought scrubs. Aside from Cowan having a tough fight versus Claudia Leite that could literally go any way. It was a close fight that can go either way. And when you look at Perez, the only decent fighter on her record is Stephanie Bergerac, who actually had some fights against Mariana Moraes, had a Jennifer Maya, Caitlin Chukagian. So those two are the only fighters that they both have fought. They fought one person. The rest of them are cans, and they look good beating these guys. But Perez looks a bit better beating these cans. And the grappling is going to be a big thing because I think Hailey Cowan, with her strength, she can muscle her way to get some takedowns. She can hold Perez against the cage. When it comes to the striking, I'm not sure who's better because um, they're both showing their striking against cans that aren't really fighting back in the striking area. But if based on the eye test, I will say I think Perez is a bit better with the striking. She has really good body kicks that come with some velocity that I didn't see from Hailey Cowan. And again, she's ferocious, man. Like she seems like a dog. She's gonna fight for your money, and I think this is a fight that she could win. So I'm gonna go with Ailin Perez. Um, Being technically the better grappler, will she get the grappling advantages? I'm not sure because Cowan is physically strong, but I think as the fight goes on, I can see Cowan slowing down a bit, and Perez still going. And I think Perez has better MMA striking. And I think Perez, as far as the grappling goes, could be the better striker in this fight as well. So I'm going to go with Ailin Perez to win the fight.
Third fight of our prelims, Rafael Alves versus Nurullo Aliev. For Rafael Alves, he lost his last fight back in July. That was to Drew Dober. Good power. I like his kicks. I like his boxing. He throws a lot into his strikes. He's very explosive at times. He's going to rush in with those constant strikes, but he can also be fairly composed. He can be pretty technical as well. He has a bad habit of letting himself get backed up, so he is going to fight from the outside pretty often. But let's see how he handles the stand up in this one. Takedowns are not really an active part of his game, but he is a good grappler. 40% of his wins are due to submission, mostly that guillotine specifically. Nurullo Aliev, on the other hand, is making his UFC debut from the Dana White Contender Series. Of course, we see the record there, undefeated at 8-0. Most of those wins are via decision, which is important to note because that is going to speak to his cardio. Good controlled stand-up, good long jab, a lot of fakes and feints. He's going to try to control center. He's going to try to put that pressure on you. Good reaction time. He can find good combinations. He can, definitely keep up with his striking. But Aliev is definitely a wrestler, right? He's going to take his time. He's going to, look for clinch situations, take his time in that clinch, try to find that takedown, chain those wrestling attempts together. Really good clinch work, really good top control. Very much that Dagestani Sambo style, right? So we know what's going to come with that. We know it's smothering top control is going to come with that. We know a lot of control time is going to come with that as well. From a prediction standpoint, I mean, it goes without saying that Rafael Alves is a legitimate opponent for anyone. I think this is a very tough debut for Nurullo Aliev, but I like Aliev's chances here. I think that Alves, with Alves' striking style, Alves is going to allow Aliev to be the one to press forward. Alves has just 60% takedown defense as well. So I think that he's not going to be able to all the way stop Aliev's takedown attempts, again, with that chain wrestling. And despite Alves' grappling ability, I think that Sambo wrestling style is going to nullify the grappling that Alves has to offer defensively. I'd be careful betting this. I'm looking at some decent value analytically on Aliev, but he's a newcomer, right? Newcomers oftentimes don't look that great in their debuts, on top of Alves being a legitimate threat for anyone, or a legitimate opponent, I should say, for anyone. Alves is also a power threat. Again, he's very explosive. He can definitely get it done on the feet. But analytically, like I said, a lot of advantages for Aliev in this fight. Outside of him being a newcomer, I would feel pretty confident otherwise. But I'm going to see how this one looks during the weigh-ins. I want to see if I can get that read to really, include him on a parlay or include him on a lottery type of ticket. Otherwise, analytically, I like the value that Aliev has to provide here.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. Obviously, because of last week with that the Russian, the Chechen guy coming in 23-0 and getting pieced up over 3 rounds. So we have another guy coming in undefeated. The Tajik Eagle, I think that's his nickname. So I guess he thinks he's the next Khabib. But he does have a fighting style comparable to Khabib, but obviously not on the Khabib level. He wants to wrestle. He wants to get this to the mat. He has really good top pressure. His striking needs some work. Alves, a dangerous guy. This guy is dangerous against anyone in that first round. He has finishes in that first round. He can get a knockout. He has a really good going for takedowns. You got to be careful. You can lock up a guillotine. He has a really tight choke, really tight grip. He has finished fighters there. So Aliev is going to need to be careful going in for the takedowns. I think the takedowns will be there. We've seen Demir be very successful in the takedowns against Alves. And I think Aliev has better wrestling than Demir. So I can see Aliev getting this to the mat. He's really, really good top pressure, staying on top. Alves really doesn't have much off his back as far as like arm bars or like he hasn't shown it. He kind of just sits there, waits. He just kind of holds you there. He doesn't really try to do much to get out. So I can see Aliev getting top control, controlling it. But I do think that he needs to get this out of that first round. I think Alves has too much cardio, too much explosiveness in that first round. But I see once it gets out of there, I don't see how Alves can win the next 2 rounds. So I like Aliev here to get this done here with his grappling, top control. He should win a comfortable win here.
Fourth fight of our prelims, Joe Solecki versus Carl Deaton. We're going to see right away that Joe Solecki is the big favorite on this one, minus 550. Solecki had a majority decision win over Alex De Silva back in June. He's introduced as a boxer, grappler, pretty good on the feet, or decent on the feet, I should say. Good lateral movement, good crisp hands, good boxing technique. Does a bit of boxing from the outside or from distance. His footwork, bit herky-jerky, could be a little bit more fluid. He got touched early in his last fight as well, so that's going to lead to some chin questions. He did recover well, though, through his grappling. And to that point, he has good takedowns, almost 2.5 per, almost 50% accuracy. He has the good wrestling, the positional improvements, the active ground and pound, BJJ black belt as well. Again, to the point of him being introduced as a grappler. So this is someone that has, a bit of everything. He has strengths no matter which part of the game you go to. And he's taking on Carl Deaton, who's on a 2-fight winning streak, who's making his UFC debut. From what I've seen with his footage, he's pretty patient with his striking. A lot of fakes and feints. He's going to try to set things up. Nothing really stands out about his striking, though. I wouldn't say, he doesn't do any one thing exceptionally well, but he is decent from what I'm seeing. Decent combinations as well. The boxing is okay. He's not afraid to engage. I have seen a ground game out of him. And, we look at his record, 17 wins. More than half of those wins are via submission. So that is important to call out. I got to go Solecki. I won't keep the prediction part of it too long because, again, Solecki is a big favorite here. My gut says that this won't be a comfortable win for him. I know that we were talking during the last event about, what should a minus 500 look like? And I don't think Joe Solecki is going to look like a minus 500, even though I feel pretty confident in him getting the job done here. I feel like the stand-up is going to be fairly equal, all things considered. I do trust Solecki's wrestling more. I do trust Solecki's grappling more. But I can see both of these guys having moments, right? Again, I am picking Joe Solecki to get it done, but I am cautioning, though it may be a comfortable pick, I don't think it's going to look and feel like a comfortable fight. And that is enough to probably make me avoid putting him on my tickets. But I will comfortably make the pick. I do think Joe Solecki gets it done.
Yeah, I'll be quick, man. I think Carl Deaton and Joe Solecki, this is going to be a grappling fight. I think it's going to go right to the grappling. Solecki, they both have good wrestling. I will say that, but I do think Solecki has the better wrestling because he has better takedown defense. And obviously the grappling, the jiu-jitsu. Solecki is on a next level when it comes to that. So I could see Solecki easily getting on top here, getting a full mount, beating him down, getting a submission. I like Solecki here, man, because it's going to be grappling. It's going to be it's not like he's fighting a really good, dangerous striker. So it's going to be a grappling match, and Solecki is levels above Carl. So I think Solecki gets it done pretty easily.
Fight number 5, Ode Osbourne, Charles Johnson. This is at catch weight. For Ode Osbourne, lost to Tyson Nam back in August. We know he's going to have that long reach, 3-inch reach advantage here. He's pretty quick on the feet. He's explosive, decent boxing, decent kickboxing as well. I like his accuracy specifically. He doesn't really wind up on his punches. He stays patient. He has good power. He has good combinations, never really throwing one punch at a time. It's usually two or three punches at a time. Good diversity to his striking as well, with throwing the kicks in there too. He wrestled in college, but I don't expect it to be part of his game. Just 2 takedowns landed in 7 UFC fights. And I want to raise some caution to his cardio. Not that he's going to be completely gassed, but as the fight progresses, he's not as fast, he's not as explosive, he's not as sharp. That's something that you want to pay attention to. This is someone who, definitely is a lot more dangerous in round one than he is throughout the remainder of the fight. And Charles Johnson has taken this fight on short notice. He's coming in on about 2 weeks' notice. He's on a 2-fight winning streak after he beat Jimmy Flick last month. He's a solid switch stance Muay Thai approach on the feet. He's patient. He fights from the outside. A lot of fakes and feints, good head movement, solid overall movement, good regular usage of his jab, good regular usage of his calf kick. Just good striking IQ is really what I'm trying to mention with Charles Johnson here. Good composed striker. He picks his shots effectively. He can put clean combinations together as well. The takedown defense is there, despite his takedown defense percentage still being in the 50s. He can work his way back up if he is taken down. His cardio is definitely there. And in his last fight, he showed that he can be a bit more aggressive offensively as well. And that was a style that really worked well for him. Charles Johnson, as I mentioned, coming in on 2 weeks' notice. And I think that's why the odds are as close as they are. But Charles Johnson is someone that I expect to be in shape. I mean, again, he fought Jimmy Flick about 5 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think he posted an image of him accepting this short notice fight, and he looked in shape. So I'm gonna trust the cardio that he will build over 2 weeks to get ready for this one, as somebody who has 5-round experience, as somebody who has shown me cardio in fights that I've seen him with. And on top of that, this should be a striking match. This is not going to be some kind of super high-paced fight that's going to deplete Charles Johnson prematurely. Instead, I look at this as a striking match, and Charles Johnson to me is the higher level striker. Even on short notice, I still trust his cardio more than I trust Odi Osbourne's cardio. We saw Odi Osbourne having issues with Tyson Nam. I mean, not just getting knocked out, but just also with Nam's striking in general. Charles Johnson to me presents a much bigger task than Tyson Nam. I think Charles Johnson's quicker, more dynamic, and has the power in his own right. I feel pretty comfortable picking Charles Johnson here. I think he's found his rhythm in the UFC. I'm not intimidated by the short notice for him. And as a result, I really like the value here at -160. So Charles Johnson's going to be my pick.
Yeah, for me, this is a tough fight, man. I like Charles Johnson. I like Odi Osbourne. It's tough because when you really Charles Johnson, okay, he's the more precise striker of the two. He should be the better striker, the more technical striker. Odie's the more explosive guy. Will have more power as well. We got to give that to Odie, and plus Odie will have the wrestling advantage as well. I want to go Charles. I want to say he wins it easily, but when you really look at who he's beat, he was able to keep it on the feet with Jimmy Flick, but we know Jimmy Flick can't strike, so he won there. Zhalgas Zhumagulov, he arguably lost that fight. The best strikers he's fought was Carlos Mota, and in that fight he was losing the fight until the 5th round. So it does show he has cardio and the finish ability in the 5th round. But if that was a 3-round fight, that would be another loss on over there. And then a bunch of other guys that aren't really up to speed. They're not that good. And so you have to really factor in who Charles is beating. And he does have some losses on his record. He is beatable. Odi Osbourne, you don't know what you're going to get. He's the type of guy who can come out looking like a superstar, and then the next day he comes out, you're wondering what's going on. Of the two, Odi has the best win on his record against CJ Vergara, a fight that was really close that could have went either way. They gave the fight to Odi Osbourne, but if you watch CJ Vergara, he is a tough fight, and that's a good win to have on your record. So out of the two, he does have the tougher win. So it's a tough fight. But ultimately, when I look at these two, one thing I've seen is Charles has more durability as far as he doesn't really get finished with strikes. And Odie, we've seen him get finished with strikes. So there is a chance that Charles has a better chin because we haven't seen it. But again, competition levels, it could be deceiving that whereas Odie has fought the tougher guys, the heavier handed guys. But I actually do think technically Charles is the better striker. Technically, Charles should get this. She should win this fight. So I'm gonna go Charles Johnson, but I'm not as confident as Harris on this one. I think Odie's the type of guy that he can come in as a superstar. He can come in average. We don't know what Odie we're getting, but he does have the ability to win this fight. So I'm gonna stay away from betting, but for the channel, I'm gonna go with Charles Johnson.
Fight number 6, Jordan Leavitt, Victor Martinez. Jordan Leavitt lost to Paddy Pimblett back in July. He's looking to land takedowns early in the fight. He's going to very much prefer the game on the ground. Active on top, he improves position. Not really the heaviest ground and pound, though. More of a submission specialist. Most of his wins are via submission. He's very crafty, whether on top position or on bottom position, and pretty relentless in his approach to try to get the fight to the ground. That said, he's not really the best on the feet. He's a southpaw, doesn't have the best technique, doesn't have the best footwork, still making improvements, still fairly young, I think just 26, 27 years old. But his stand-up, not even really at a serviceable level yet. One strike at a time, lets his opponents pressure him, just really, really vulnerable in that area. And up against Victor Martinez, that could be a problem. Victor Martinez is making his UFC debut. Victor Martinez is also on a 7-fight winning streak. When I look at his footage, clean, controlled boxing. I see a regular jab as part of his game to set things up. I see good footwork. I see good in and out movement. I see more volume rather than being sort of like a power puncher. It is important to note he was taken down twice in his Dana White Contender Series fight, which is relevant here. I'll keep the prediction part of it short, though. I don't think Victor Martinez's striking is dangerous enough. We saw somebody like Paddy Pimblett, who maybe not a better striker than Victor Martinez, because I think Pimblett's striking is a bit overrated, but definitely more dangerous in terms of the power. And we saw that wasn't enough to stop Jordan Leavitt from implementing that takedown game. Though I can't really trust Jordan Leavitt at all. But I can't trust him on the feet. I do think he's going to eat a few shots, but I don't think he's in that big power danger enough to stop his takedown attempts. Technically speaking, I do like the value on Leavitt here. I'm not going to bet because I'm just not going to bet on Jordan Leavitt. But in terms of making a pick for the channel, I think he's going to be able to implement that wrestling style, boring fight, swing 2 rounds in his favor, maybe get all 3, make it a frustrating one for Victor Martinez, and get the W in his name. So Jordan Leavitt's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I like Jordan Leavitt in this spot. I'll tell you why. When I watched Victor Martinez, I watched a couple of his fights. I watched 5 of his fights. One fight, though, the Jacob Rosales fight on the Contender Series. Rosales won the first round. Second round, Victor won that round. But at some point in that fight, Rosales, he couldn't throw his right hand. It was his right hand. He couldn't throw his right hand at all. And something was wrong with his arm or his hand. And just watching the fight, he probably threw one punch with his right hand for the rest of the second and the third round. And for the rest of the fight, Rosales had his spots as well, just fighting with one hand, his left hand. And you would think that you're fighting a guy with one arm, you're gonna press the fight, go for the finish. Victor definitely won those 2 rounds clearly, but he didn't look as good as you should look against a guy with one arm. And it's his weak arm, right? He only has his weak arm left. So another thing is Victor Martinez, he makes a lot of mistakes in the grappling, and that's going to be a big issue in this fight because he's fighting a grappling specialist. We know Leavitt, his striking is horrendous, but his grappling is next level. And his grappling is serious. And in this fight, he's going to be the much better grappler. I think he's going to be able to get this fight to the mat. And Victor likes to give up his back. And Jordan has a really good triangle. I'm sorry, he's really good at locking in the triangle from the back. getting his locks in and getting back control for the whole round. So I can see Leavitt just winning an easy 2 rounds, like Harris said, with his grappling, getting the body triangle. I see him winning this fight here with that grappling. So I like Jordan Leavitt. I think Victor does have the boxing advantage, the striking advantage, but I don't think he can stop the takedown. So Jordan's my pick.
Fight number 7, last fight of our prelims, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Gabriella Fernandes. Jasudavicius had that unanimous decision loss to Natalia Silva in her last fight. She looks pretty comfortable on the feet. She's a decent kickboxer. She's going to stalk her opponents down with her style of stand-up. Regular jab usage as well. Looks like she has some wrestling. She has some takedowns, 2 takedowns per fight, though she was not able to land any in her last fight. Some ground and pound as well, some decent top control, some decent takedown defense. Gabriella Fernandes is on a 7-fight winning streak. She's coming from LFA. She actually won the interim flyweight title in her last fight in the LFA. She's introduced as a striker. She's a southpaw with some switch stance. She's methodical, explosive, really good kicks. The footwork is there. The in and out movement is there as well, and she can let combinations go. I think this is a close fight, as the odds indicate. Jasudavicius has a style that can look good to the judges, pushing the action, looking for the takedowns, working that clinch, different things like that. But one key thing with Jasudavicius is that her cardio isn't that great. She's going to slow down with the style that she needs to win the fight. Even if she has a good first round, I see her gassing out in the second round, in the third round. And to that point, I think Gabriella Fernandes, she's going to have the more effective striking. She's more methodical with the striking, more explosive with the striking, more striking IQ. And I think as this fight goes on in the second and third round, she's going to get a bit more comfortable. That UFC moment is out of the way in round 1. She's going to settle in, and I think she's going to outstrike Jasudavicius for the 2 rounds after that first one. That's going to involve a lot of clinching. So unless Jasmine Jasudavicius figures out that she can land takedowns really easily, or that she can implement the clinch really easily, I otherwise see Gabriella Fernandez's striking taking over as this fight continues on. So I'm going with the newcomer, Gabriella Fernandes. I think she's going to get it done.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough fight because Jasmine looked horrendous in her last fight. It was embarrassing. She looked like she was an amateur fighting a pro, and she wasn't able to get any takedowns. She got outstruck. She lost in every area of the fight. But the Jasmine that we know is looking to get this fight to the mat. She's looking to use some grappling at some point in each round to sway the round in her favor. And Gabriella, she has a tall style. I'm not sure. Well, she might be able to get this to the mat. I'm not sure if Gabriella can really stop these takedowns because we haven't really seen much of Gabriella fighting someone that's going to go into the fight and do what Jasmine is going to try to do. Jasmine has shown that she has sneaky takedowns, sneaky trips, decent top game for the division. But Gabriella has also shown that in the limited fights that we've seen, that she does have grappling. She can submit you. But her takedown defense in one fight didn't look good for me. So I'm not sure. This is really tough. I think this is a striker versus a grappler fight. I'm gonna go with Gabriella only because I just believe the UFC knows something I don't know. And after Jasmine got embarrassed in her last fight, I tend to think that the UFC wants this Brazilian Gabriella to come in and win here. I have to think that because this is a serious prospect. She has really good striking. I don't think they would give her a Sarah McMahon type wrestler like that level. And I don't think Jasmine is that level. So I think the UFC believes she can handle that. Because if she handles that, this fight's going to be easy. It's going to look like she should be a minus 1,000 if she keeps it on the feet and stops takedowns. So I'm going to go Fernandes, man. I actually do think the UFC is setting her up here somehow. So I'm going to go Gabriella to win this fight.
Let's move on to our main card. 6 fights on the main card, as mentioned. Fight number 1, we're looking at Erick Gonzalez versus Trevor Peek. Erick Gonzalez, 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Terrence McKinney back in August. Looks comfortable on the feet, decent movement. regular calf kick. I've seen some switch stance out of him as well. He has good striking diversity. Looks a bit out of control sometimes though on the feet. Has some clinch work. You know, he is capable of landing the takedown. Wouldn't really call him a wrestler by any means, however. And also just 33% takedown defense, which could be relevant in this one. He's going up against Trevor Peek, who's an undefeated fighter coming from the Dana White Contender Series. Striking technique, bit unorthodox, bit out of control, but he is explosive with good power. The pressure is there. The pace is definitely there. All of his wins are via KO, TKO. He can land takedowns from what I've seen as well. I'll get right to a prediction, though. I mean, I don't trust either of these guys. I think there are a lot of holes in each of their game. For Erick Gonzalez, I mean, you're not going to get much out of that fight from Terrence McKinney. But there was one key thing that I noticed in that fight that's going to make me go with Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek has, I don't want to say the level of explosiveness that Terrence McKinney has, but Trevor Peek definitely has a similar type of explosiveness that Gonzalez's last opponent, Terrence McKinney, was able to put on him, I should say. So I'm anticipating Trevor Peek, being able to be that fighter that's going to press the action forward, that's going to be the more dangerous striker that even if Erick Gonzalez covers up, is still going to have punches that kind of go through the block and big jumping knees and kicks that go through the block. I'm not expecting Trevor Peek to be a wrestler here by any means, but he should be able to land takedowns too, should he resort to it. This is one of those fights that I think definitely finishes inside the distance. Just stylistically, Peek doesn't really have that style to go 3 rounds. Erick Gonzalez doesn't really have that style to go 3 rounds. And in that situation, I mean, a Trevor Peek round 1 finish just wouldn't surprise me at all. Do I trust it enough to bet on it? Absolutely not. Do I trust it enough to put it on a lottery ticket? Absolutely not. But in terms of making a pick for the channel, I mean, Erick Gonzalez, 1 loss for every 2 wins he gets, right? Trevor Peek definitely has motivation to stay undefeated. Trevor Peek has the explosiveness. Erick Gonzalez is susceptible to takedowns as well. Both of these guys have holes in their game, but due to Trevor Peek's explosiveness, I'm going to pick Trevor Peek here to get it done. But not a confident pick by any means. It's just that Erick Gonzalez to me is just not that good, not really UFC level. So I think Trevor Peek's explosive style can actually work in this one. Again, Trevor Peek is going to be my pick.
Yeah, when you look at these guys, man, Erick Gonzalez is probably he's probably better all around as far as these two go. He's probably the better striker. Wrestling, not sure, but he could probably get takedowns on Trevor Peek. And he has the experience, and he's fought the way tougher guys than Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek on the Contender Series, he was getting destroyed. But I don't know how he stayed in, man. This guy is hard. He has a good chin. He took the shot, survived, and second round he basically put on a pace and finished the fight. So that's hard. And also his chin is a big thing because Erick, we know, is like a domino when you stand it up. You punch him, he just knocks down. Like it's simple. He has no chin. Jim Miller knocked him out. I think this is going to be a war. I think this fight's going to go back and forth. Both fighters will have their spots. But I think at some point, Trevor is going to hit this guy, and he's going to fall down like a domino. So I like Trevor Peek here to pull this one out here in his first fight in the UFC.
Second fight of the main card, Mike Malott, Yohan Lainesse, all-Canadian showdown here at welterweight. Mike Malott, 4-fight winning streak after he beat Mickey Gall back in April. He's a southpaw, some switch stance as well, regular jab, regular fakes, regular feints included in his attack. He's a good grappler as well. Half of his wins are via submission. All of his fights are via finish, including that last fight. So you definitely have to respect the power that Mike Malott has to offer as well. With Yohan Lainesse, he had a split decision win over Darian Weeks back in September. He's introduced as a striker. He has some power in his own right. Definitely willing to engage. You look at his 9 wins there, 6 of them are via KO, TKO. He can switch stance. He has a good jab. He appears to have the wrestling too. sometimes in his fights he's going to actively shoot for takedowns, but sometimes he's going to just keep it standing. And even in that last fight versus Darian Weeks, completely fight from the outside the entire time. Some question marks with his cardio. He does slow down as the fight goes on, but again, that last fight versus Darian Weeks, he showed a lot of lateral movement, and that was maintained throughout the entire fight. This is a fight that you just can't really feel comfortable with on either side. To that point, Mike Malott minus 220, I think, is way too much. I think there is naturally some underdog value on Yohan Lainesse for this one. Again, a lot of 50-50 components, if you ask me, but ultimately, I'm going to pick Mike Malott here because I think he has slightly more to offer on the feet. I think his striking is a bit more intentional. I think he puts the combinations better together. Plus, again, he has that grappling advantage should Lainesse want to resort to that takedown that he sometimes does. So I don't think Lainesse is going to take the fight there. I think Lainesse might even try a similar style that he tried against Darian Weeks, fighting from the outside, trying to pick the shots here and there. That was a frustrating fight to watch. Lainesse, of course, got the split decision win on that, but anyone really could have won that fight. Weeks just didn't do enough offensively. I think if he implements that same style, Malott is going to have answers for that, better answers than Darian Weeks had. I think if Lainesse resorts to takedowns, Malott is going to be able to reverse some of those positions with the grappling advantages that he has. So I think no matter what Lainesse chooses to do, Malott could have a slight one-up on him. That's going to make me want to pick Mike Malott to get it done here. But from a confidence level, the confidence is not high on this one. But the pick is still going to be Mike Malott.
Yeah, you got to be careful here because Yohan Lainesse, he has that Matt Brown style. Albeit Matt Brown has a method to the madness. Yohan kind of just goes with the flow, but he has that one-shot power. He can knock you out. And in this fight, if Malott stays in that striking, we've seen him get really hurt by Hakeem Dawodu when they fought. I think it was at featherweight. But he got knocked out in that fight. Like really, like it was like standing knockout, and it was really bad. Once he got hit with that big shot, he stood up. He did not fall down, but once he got hit with that shot, he was not there, and Dawodu was able to just tee off on him, just throw punches, elbows. Referee had to get in there, right? So Lainesse can pop, and he can land a shot like that and to knock out Malott. But I don't know, like he wings it, right? Like he throws a shot, he kind of throws it from a mile away. So Malott is technical. You should see these punches. Malott does have countering ability. And when it comes to the grappling, Malott is the much better grappler. When it comes to the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, Lainesse can wrestle, but Malott is slightly better there, but he's much better with the grappling, the submissions. I wouldn't be surprised if Malott gets a submission here, but I'm going to go with the win on Malott's side. I think it could be a sticky fight because Malott, I'm not sure he can take the power. But if he can take that shot from Lainesse, he's going to cruise here. So I like Mike Malott to win this fight.
Fight number 3 of our main card, Tatiana Suarez, Montana De La Rosa. Suarez, 3.5 years since her last fight. That's when she beat Nina Nunes at that time. Undefeated, 9-0. She's a southpaw on the feet. Good movement, active striking as well. But really, she's using the striking just enough to open up that ground game. She's an elite wrestler. Her strength is in her wrestling. The diversity of her takedowns, the takedown defense, the top control, the ground and pound. It's all there for Tatiana Suarez on the ground. Montana De La Rosa is a fighter that also relies on her ground game. She had a unanimous decision loss to Macy Barber in April. The stand-up is improved. I think it's somewhat serviceable at this point now. But again, her goal is to land takedowns. She's a 3-time All-American wrestler. Going back to her high school days, she has a strong body lock and a good grappler on top of that. I won't spend much time on this fight. I mean, we look at Suarez as, I believe, the biggest favorite on the card, minus 700. I want to put Tatiana Suarez in perspective here. She was a minus 750 favorite against Alexa Grasso. That's a fighter that's now highly ranked in the division. Tatiana Suarez also has a win against Carla Esparza on the ground, who, of course, two-time champion, and especially in that second run to the title, we saw what Esparza was able to do even against high-level strikers in terms of her wrestling game and her ground game. So it just lets you know where Tatiana Suarez was at before her time off. This is someone who was definitely looking to contend for the title at some point. So here she is 3.5 years later. And really, it's Suarez all day on this one. Even with the layoff, I expect her wrestling to be a lot stronger than De La Rosa's. We know that De La Rosa is not a threat on the feet, and we might even see Suarez kind of show what I assume to be striking improvements in this fight, before ultimately having the better ground moments throughout the entire fight and taking it to where she wants on the ground. I think Suarez is a big favorite for a reason. I feel pretty comfortable picking her. I know we have question marks with 3.5 years off, but Montana De La Rosa is not the style of opponent to give Suarez problems in her return. So Suarez pretty comfortably, but I'm also taking note of how Suarez looks in terms of future picks. Tatiana Suarez, I think, gets it done.
Yeah, this is a real -700. This is a lock, man. Tatiana Suarez. This is gonna be a grappling fight. Suarez is the female Khabib. Like, she's the best female wrestler I've ever seen in MMA. And I know Sarah McMahon has that silver medal, but I haven't seen anyone dominate like she has in the women's division in terms of with the wrestling. She's gonna make easy work, man. I don't see how anyone. What's the percentage on Tapology?
96% for
I don't see
Suarez.
how those 4% are thinking De La Rosa, man. Suarez is gonna kill her. Suarez lock. Yeah, this is a lock, man. Suarez gets it done. If you haven't seen her fight, how it's gonna go, bell's gonna ring, she's gonna clinch up, take her down, hold her down for the whole round. And she's gonna do that over and over. She has good cardio. So easy work, Tatiana Suarez.
Fight number 4, Augusto Sakai, Dontel Mays, heavyweight fight, heavyweight beware. Naturally, Augusto Sakai is on a 4-fight losing streak now after he lost to Sergey Spivak back in August. Sakai is a striker, Thai boxing style, mostly hands, occasional kick here and there. He has accurate boxing, some pop in his punches too, good punch IQ. On top of that, decent movement. Surprisingly, a lot of fighting from the outside. Don't expect him to land takedowns, but he's definitely going to be a fighter that's going to use that clinch against the cage to his advantage. I mentioned the Thai background, so expect some good knees in there, expect some good dirty box in those types of situations as well. Dontel Mays had that split decision loss. It was ultimately ruled a no contest. That was against Hamdi Abdel Wahab back in July. Decent movement. He's going to fight from the outside as well. He's going to pepper in that calf kick. Dontel Mays, of course, has that good long jab, 4-inch reach advantage for this one. That 81-inch reach, good push kick as well. And he's pretty dynamic with good movement. He can switch stance. Expect him to be more of a technical point fighter rather than a brawler. And you still got to highlight the Dontel Mays versus Josh Parisian fight, where he went for the clinch, where he landed 6 takedowns, where his position looked good. He proactively implemented that style, and he was able to do so for 3 rounds with good looking cardio until he got that TKO finish. The next fight, Dontel Mays was not able to do that. However, it makes you wonder how he'll approach this fight. It makes you wonder, was that just a positional thing versus an opponent in Josh Parisian who doesn't have great takedown defense? Or is this something that he is trying to bake into his style? I think it's going to be very relevant for this fight. And I think that raises a lot of question marks for this fight. What we do know to be true is that this fight is definitely a step down in competition for Augusto Sakai. Again, still a very tough fight to predict. If Dontel Mays is watching Sakai's last fight, he's going to go for takedowns all day. Sergey Spivak was able to land, I think, 4 takedowns against Augusto Sakai, although, of course, Spivak, a much higher level wrestler. But if Mays is watching that footage, it might give him that ambition to use the style that he used against Josh Parisian. Sakai, on the other hand, is the much more technical striker. though he may not be the more dynamic striker, I think his technique can be more effective. I think Sakai can also implement that clinch technique to score points that I talked about, especially with Dontel Mays only having 57% takedown defense in his own right. That's going to tell me that he's vulnerable in those clinch positions. And again, looking at Dontel Mays' last fight versus Hamdi Abdelwahab, those clinch situations, there's times where Abdelwahab was on his back, right? And landing kind of some ground and pound as well. My gut is telling me to go with Dontel Mays in this one, but my gut is also telling me not to trust Dontel Mays. Augusto Sakai is still just 31 years old, still very alive in the division, still very much needs a win. This is not a fighter on a 4-fight winning streak who might as well be on his way out. This is a fighter on a 4-fight losing streak who needs a win. And I think he could potentially hurt Dontel Mays on the feet. If he doesn't hurt Dontel Mays, I think he can effectively use that clinch to sway rounds in his favor and effectively use the technical striking advantages that he has versus a Dontel Mays who prefers a more technical fight as opposed to brawling and power and explosiveness. So I like how the cards stack up here for Augusto Sakai. Unless Dontel Mays somehow turns into the Dontel Mays that he was versus Josh Parisian, outside of that, I think Augusto Sakai gets it done. So I'm looking at Augusto Sakai to break that losing streak, get back in the win column, kind of keep his UFC journey alive.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, man. Like, man, Dontel Mays, you can't really trust this guy. When you watch his fight versus Abdulahab, the fight he lost, he could have won that fight, but he didn't make the best decisions in that fight. But that fight was overturned. It looks like Abdulahab, his last fight, he was on some type of illegal drug, man. So that fight has an asterisk next to it. Now, when I look at Dante Mills, I see a lot of improvements. He's on a 2-fight. Now he's on a 2-fight winning streak because that loss doesn't count. But I see a lot of improvements. In the Parisian fight, he was able to take the fight to the mat, utilize wrestling, and he got multiple takedowns against that guy. And basically showing that the IQ is there. And in the fight he lost against Abdulwahab, he had a big wrestling disadvantage. Abdulwahab was an Olympic wrestler, or he was a high-level wrestler from wherever he's from. Augusto Sakai doesn't have any of that. He's from Brazil, but he doesn't have really any Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He doesn't have any ground game. He doesn't have any takedowns. When he gets taken down, he doesn't seem to know what he's doing there. And his striking, he kind of needs to lead. He kind of needs you against the cage to get off, to get that finish, right? So I think if Dontel Mays avoids his back against the cage, moves around, I think he can avoid the heavy shots, and I think he can mix it up with the takedowns. His striking is not that bad, and Sakai is, as you indicated, you say he's more technical. I'm not sure, but I will say he's more powerful, and he might be more effective. But as far as getting points, getting jabs, I can see Dontel Mays getting some points here in the striking, and then ducking for a takedown. And at that point, I see that round. I think that round's over. So I like Dontel Mays here to pull it off. But again, I can't trust him as far as betting. But I think he's the better fighter than Sakai.
Let's move on to our co-main event. We have Andre Muniz taking on Brendan Allen. Good middleweight scrap here. Andre Muniz had that unanimous decision win over Uriah Hall. That was back in July. He's on a 9-fight winning streak now. Grappler first. So you look at his record, 23 wins. 15 of those are via submission. On the feet, he's a southpaw, pretty bouncy in the stand-up, has a long jab that he's going to use regularly, throws a lot of kicks as well. He's going to use that length, use that reach. He's the shorter fighter here by an inch, but he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage and has long limbs. So he's definitely going to use that to his advantage. Fights from a distance, a lot of fakes and feints with good timing. Very well versed. Physically strong as well. And really good at landing takedowns. Uses that strength to land those takedowns. We see his numbers there, 3.71 per fight, 40% accuracy. Of course, that's going to set up his world's class grappling as well, with the submission attempts that we see there. So he's definitely going to make it active, definitely make you think about it, and definitely go for it, and definitely finish it. Again, to the point of 15 of his wins coming by way of submission. He's taking on Brendan Allen, who is on now a 3-fight winning streak after beating Krzysztof Jotko back in October. Brendan Allen is also a well-rounded fighter. The striking has definitely looked a lot more technically sound. He looks a lot more diverse with his striking, good kicks, mixes them up well. The boxing is pretty clean and crisp at this point as well. The combinations are there as well. And Brendan Allen also has good grappling, decent wrestling on top of that. His wrestling isn't amazing, especially lately. He lands just over 1 takedown per fight. 44% takedown accuracy. One thing you want to highlight with Brendan Allen is just 50% takedown defense. I think that'll be very important for this fight. When Allen is on top, though, he's good on top. It's a good mix of that grappling ability that he has, along with a pretty active ground and pound. Prediction-wise, I actually think Andre Muniz has really good value here. And I'm somebody who acknowledges Brendan Allen as a threat for a lot of fighters. And usually I kind of side with Brendan Allen. But I'm looking at this fight and I really like Andre Muniz here. I don't think that Allen is dangerous enough in any one specific area to give Andre Muniz problems. I think that Muniz can keep up on the feet, if not have better moments on the feet, because I don't think Allen is, definitively the better striker at all. I think Andre Muniz can land takedowns at a higher rate, again, with that strength that he has, again, with the 50% takedown defense that Allen has on the other side of things. And I mean, the grappling goes without saying. Regardless of what level Brendan Allen is at, Andre Muniz is one of the best grapplers in the UFC. Muniz does have 4 losses, and all of them are via KO TKO. So I think that's important to highlight. Allen has that puncher's chance. Allen has that explosiveness. But the last time Muniz lost and the last time Muniz was knocked out was in 2016. So he's clearly fixed a lot of things since then in those 7 years. Again, Allen has just 50% takedown defense. So even if Allen's striking is causing Muniz some problems, I can see Muniz, resorting to the ground in this fight and having his way with the grappling exchanges. I like Andre Muniz here. I really like the IQ that he's shown in his fights over the past couple of fights that he's had. And I think he's in a good spot to get a win here and really put himself in that space to start fighting top level contenders in this middleweight division. So Andre Muniz, I think he gets it done. I think he's in a good spot here, and I think some good value, some good odds here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a grappling fight. I think it's going to be mostly grappling, and make it quick. A lot of these, if you watch a lot of grappling matches, where you see these Americans like Brendan Allen coming with that heavy wrestling game, it works, right? But a lot of times these guys lose, man, like against the Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters. And Muniz has that high level of grappling. He has that tournament style grappling that he could enter jiu-jitsu tournaments and do pretty well. And that's how high level his game is. Brendan Allen's going to look to get on top, stay in top control, but I think that's going to hurt him if he plays grappling with Muniz. I think for Allen to win, he needs to keep it on the feet and outstrike Muniz. I think that's his best way. I think he needs to avoid the grappling, but I don't see him doing that. I see him playing Muniz's game. And Muniz, if not, I think Muniz can get this to the mat. And if he can get on top, he's very dangerous. So I think this is going to be a grappling fight. I got to go with the guy I think is a much better grappler. And I think Andre Muniz gets it done here.
Main event time. In that case, we're looking at Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann. Light heavyweight main event here. Krylov is on a 2-fight winning streak after that unanimous decision win over Volkan Ozdemir back in October, I should say. Bit of a karate style on the feet, but otherwise a very well-rounded fighter. He's almost an underrated fighter, someone that can do a bit of everything. I like his movement. I like his striking, diverse striking that comes from different angles with good combinations. I like his wrestling and his takedowns as well. 2 takedowns per fight. An impressive 7 takedowns landed in his last fight, but Ozdemir is not a ground specialist at all. He can grapple, solid work against the cage, in the clinch position as well. This is a fighter who's pretty comfortable no matter which position he's in. And going up against Ryan Spann, who's on a 2-fight winning streak as well, after beating Dominic Reyes in November. That was a good win for him. The stand-up is decent. He has that methodical pace. He's going to use a very active jab, solid 1-2 combination as well. Not the most active striker, but he has legitimately dangerous power, as we've seen from him. Might have a questionable chin. You know, he has been finished a few times in his career. I've seen him also resort to wrestling, or at least kind of that clinch style as well. Good head position against the cage can keep you there with the underhooks, with the clinch, almost 1.5 takedowns per fight. So I don't want to say it's a serious takedown threat that he provides, but it is there. It is there with intention. Just 50% takedown defense, however, which is pretty relevant for this fight. I'm going back and forth on this one. You know, on one hand, I like Krylov. I think he's the more complete fighter. I think he has more activity with the striking. I think he's more intentional with that takedown approach. And I mean, we saw him take big shots from Volkan Ozdemir in their last fight and survive that, right? On the other hand, Ryan Spann has really dangerous power, really dangerous finishing ability. He's looked good recently in his past several fights, or past 2 fights, I should say. Sort of looks refocused, and that refocus is making me want to trust Ryan Spann for this one. Again, that power, I can't ignore it. I can't ignore it. His size. I think the biggest gripe that I've had with Ryan Spann is which version of Ryan Spann shows up. But it's been the good version lately, and maybe I'm falling for the trap, but I'm believing that the good version will show up for this fight as well. Both of these guys are guys that end fights early, so either of them can be, pretty vulnerable in the later rounds of the fight. That also says that either of them can get each other out of there pretty early. But I mean, again, that methodical striking, in addition to the power that Ryan Spann has, it's a real threat, and I just can't ignore it. And when I think about Ozdemir connecting on Krylov in round 1 of their fight, I have to believe. I know Ozdemir is a big puncher, but I have to believe if that was Ryan Spann landing in round 1, that fight would have been over via knockout. And I think that's potentially what could happen here. I think Krylov can find himself getting caught again, and this time not surviving it the way he did against Ozdemir. Ryan Spann has looked good. His power has looked really good lately as well. And I think this could be another impressive win on his resume. I think Ryan Spann gets it done.
Yeah, this is a tough fight because Ryan Spann has been looking real good lately, and he said in his last fight, he said he's finally training for fights. He said he's finally doing full training camp, so he definitely looked really improved in that fight. But I don't think he gets it done here, man. Like, I'll be honest, I think we forget that Krylov was a heavyweight, if I'm correct. When he fought Wall Harris at heavyweight, I believe. So this guy, yeah, this guy's fought at heavyweight. He's not gonna have an issue with the size. He's fought big guys. Wall Harris is 6'5". He knocked him out in 25 seconds in the first round. So Krylov's gonna have the power, and the whole overall MMA game he's gonna make use of. He's gonna get this guy. He's gonna take him down. He's gonna tire him out. Because you have to think Krylov has gone 3 rounds a lot more than Ryan Spann, and I think he's going to drag him to deep waters with the wrestling. He got 7 takedowns in his last fight, so he's definitely showing that if it's someone like Gustafsson who's past his time, I'll strike with you. If it's someone like Ozdemir who has hammers in his hand, I'm going to wrestle you. And I think he looks at Spann the same way as he looks at Ozdemir. And Spann, his only defense for takedowns is that choke, that guillotine. So you got to bank on him getting that home run choke. If he doesn't get that choke, I think he loses. So I'm gonna go with the favorite here, Nikita Krylov, to win this one with his wrestling. Avoid that choke, avoid the power, and don't forget Krylov has power too. So I like Krylov to win this one.
All right, let's take it to Vegas at that point. And of course, let's start with an underdog. I will read out the underdogs to you. So Ailin Perez is an underdog. Jasudavicius is an underdog. Carl Deaton. Jordan Leavitt is the slight underdog on that one. Jose Johnson is an underdog. Yohan Lainesse, Odie Osbourne, Rafael Alves, Erick Gonzalez, Montana De La Rosa, Dontel Mays, Brendan Allen, and Ryan Spann.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Jose Johnson.
All right, so Jose Johnson getting the job done against Garrett Armfield. My underdog pick for this one is going to be Ailin Perez. Again, I'm just not sold on Hailey Cowan, so I think that Ailin Perez gets the job done there. And in terms of some parlay picks, who are you taking a look at?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw that back at you, Max. I'm still looking at it right now. You probably have yours ready.
I do. In terms of, I was going back and forth myself on this one, so I definitely had to think it through, but pieced it together right before recording here, and who I landed upon is Charles Johnson, Andre Muniz, and then the lock of the card, Tatiana Suarez. So those three fights would be a 2.55. That means that $100 will return a total of $255, and for our bigger bettors, $250 would return a total of $638.
All right, so I'm gonna go with Nurullo Aliev, Joe Solecki, Tatiana Suarez, and Muniz.
Suarez, Muniz, and Joe Solecki. Where is he? There he is. All right, so two big favorites, Joe Solecki, Tatiana Suarez, Nurullo Aliev included as well, Andre Muniz included as well. That would be a 3.01. That means that $100 will return a total of $301, and for our bigger bettors, $250 will return a total of $754. So let's officially sign off on that note. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. It is something that we would definitely appreciate, especially if you watch our videos every week. You're using our predictions on a weekly basis. Just show that love with the subscription button. And if this is your first time watching, maybe don't even hit that subscribe button yet. Let's see if we can prove ourselves to you before you go ahead and commit to that subscription. Otherwise, hit the thumbs up on this video and make sure you most importantly participate in the comments. We want to hear from you. What parlays are you looking at? What underdogs are you considering? How do you feel about our picks? And if there's any, of course, additional insight that you're looking for, let that be known in the comments, and we're more than happy to participate in that conversation as well. Otherwise, let's officially sign off. This has been UFC Fight Night, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann, your full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris, and in our usual fashion, let's get this money.
Let's get it.